It's our second class for today. Our first class, we discussed about research. It's more of because we have three classes every week, every weekend like this. The research skills class, the graduate school process, and then also the AI class. So our next class will be having someone from OWO University, a computer
Hmm.
science PhD student who will be speaking to us on AI.
Hmm.
There are some tools he want to introduce to us and all that. So your class is on now. So just enjoy. This is the second class, not the first class, but the first week of the event.
Oh, I see. I see. Yeah, that's good to know. I think kudos to the team. And also it's kind of an exhaustive weekend. This will go on for
Yeah.
how long? 12 weeks, I think.
Yeah, it's a
Ah,
very long thing. I mean, it's going to be very, very long. It's going to be a very difficult thing for us, but we'll try and see how we can pull through because it's going to last till September.
ah, I
So
see.
every Saturday, we are going to be here with these guys until the next 3 months.
Oh,
So
that's
there will even be a time we might have to get you again to speak.
yeah, I think I'm meant to speak on two different sessions. I promise I won't be late
Yeah.
that time. You know,
All right.
you know, that's what it is. But for all this world, I'm excited to be here. And thanks for providing that context. I think it helps me know what to refer to and what to refer to. As I do in
Yeah.
any session I take, the first thing I do is to establish the motivation. Why is this important? And I like to share this personalized story, right? Of why are trainings like this important? Why is it important for you to get mentorship in your graduate application process? Now I'll go ahead to the nitty-gritty of what you guys think might want. Luckily, today is just to build, how do you prepare yourself for graduate school? And maybe a bit of some practical section. I was fortunate I went to Lagos State University, right? I came from a very humble background. But I believe strongly in the power of education. Education can change a lot, and it has changed me significantly in ways I cannot appreciate.
Yes.
But to contextualize things, got into LASU, actually made a good grade. I had an historic GPA, even like to a large extent. I think the first in 36 years of the university. And you see where I'm going with this story. Historic CGPA, got multiple scholarship or awards, like at least over 20 of them. Published about 6 academic papers and undergrad, right? Working with professors. Some of them were in writing at the time. Then I also wrote a book. The book then was launched by the governor, which just came in. On okay, how do you navigate life? So I decided to apply to graduate school. It's fine, I can go to graduate school. I want to do a PhD, right? I applied to graduate school. I like to think I wrote a compelling personal statement, put my CV together, had a first class grade, had papers. Based on what I read online, there's no reason why I should not get in. Now, to kind of cut the long story short, everything was a rejection. I didn't get any. And I quickly realized that there are people with way significantly less profile than myself, second class, upper, even second class lower, that got offers in some places that I'd applied to. Now, what was the difference between them and myself was a lack of mentorship. I had phrased my application in a narrative that, like, I studied in a very interesting environment where doing research is, albeit difficult, not the best, but I was able to go above the odds and do this. And while that story might be appealing, particularly to the average Nigerian audience, and maybe a story of resilience, not because your application packet also doesn't have to display that in some ways. It positioned me in a very weird spot. I learned later on in the years that I'm competing with people that graduated with their bachelors from Harvard University, MIT, with a limited spot, right? And I'm telling them that my training was not the best, but it's resilience that brought me here. Now, what I'm applying for is a merit-based scholarship. I couldn't get any, but it was a significant lack of mentorship. A few persons reviewed my SOP, just peer colleagues. I didn't speak to any grad student that was involved in the process. I just felt like I have the profile for it. I thought I was a good writer. And maybe I was, for what is what, but I didn't get in because I lacked mentorship. And that taught me significantly that even have the best profiles like I did, this process would be faulted to the end without mentorship. What did I do the following year? I started by attending seminars. There's a network then called First Class Network Group. I joined the group. I joined graduate school application group. I attended all series of seminars, different approaches. That gave me the opportunity to be able to see this program called Education USA Opportunity Fund Program. Got into Education USA, got their mentorship. And the following year, I did apply with almost similar profile. I worked on it a little bit. But my strategy, my approach, largely shaped by mentorship, got all offers in university I applied to, both in the US and in the UK, competing offer about 7 of them. Now, the difference here is that we're going to spend a lot of time for the next 12 weeks on what needs to be done. And some of those information might look redundant to you. It's a game changer. I supposedly lost a year because of lack of mentorship, not merit. So I think you should consider yourself fortunate that you're in an environment, commitment from different people all over the world, both in the country, out of the country, trying to create a space because as Stanley knows better than every other speaker that will come, they are not doing it because they have the time, because they understand what the gap of mentorship can do. And I truly hope that you guys appreciate this with this little opener I'm able to kind of establish to you guys. Now, that said, I'm here to talk about how do you kind of build a competitive, 1 second. I want to see if I can share my screen also, but remember when we got there. How do you build it?
If you want to share your screen, let me make you a co-host so that you're able to share your screen from your end.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. I think I will share in a moment when I get it. I have to also join on my laptop, but it's the second part I will do that. But you can make me cool. I appreciate it.
All
You know.
right.
So I'm meant to build how do you build a competitive academic profile preparing for global opportunities? I divide the graduate school process in 3 stages, and I said earlier, 3 stages. The first is the pre-application phase, which is the phase we are currently in now. The second is the application phase, and the third is the post-application phase. The 3 of them are very, very important, but I argue that the most important stage is the pre-application phase, which I'm going to discuss today, because it's the part that addresses building a competitive academic profile and every other thing you guys will do. Then hopefully this will empower you for the application phase and also the post-application phase. And why is the pre-application phase the most important? Because it's about building your profile. And that's why I love this topic when Precious came to me. Building a competitive academic profile is getting the things right, what you need and what you don't need. So the first step in a pre-application phase is what I call a self-assessment, a honest self-evaluation of where do you currently stand. You're interested in pursuing a master's or a PhD in economics, in microbiology, in biochemistry, in international relations. You graduated with a first class, a second class, or a second class. It doesn't matter. You can't change the past. Whatever you did, a good grade, a not too good grade, whatever you define by that metrics, is to look at yourself, evaluate where are your core strengths. What do you have? What does your resume look like? Sort of bring it out. Now, as the first important step, every person applying must do. If you've not done that, then what metric are you evaluating against? Because evaluation is as good as nothing if you are not evaluating against a certain metrics. Now, we can see on this call that, you must have published papers. They are generalized metric. We can see on this call that you should have maybe gone to conference. You should do this or do that. They are generalized metric. But it is not as effective as your own personalized developed metrics gotten through research. And nobody can do that research for you. You have to do it yourself. Say you want to apply for a PhD program in microbiology. The first thing I do is just even a simple Google LinkedIn search of current PhD students in microbiology, maybe in US universities. Look at it, you see their names. Look at their profiles. Schools you might be interested in. Obviously, we've not got into the school search. Look at the grad student that they have. What are their profiles like? Reaching out to some peer mentors, people that might have done this ahead of you, having an idea that can they share a bit of their packet with you. Sometimes when we get people packet, and this is the part that fascinates me about people when they ask for my application packet, which I graciously share for what is what, is they are more fixated in learning my style of essay. How did I structure my CV? And it fascinates me but why are you not seeing what is my CV itself saying when I applied? Where are you? Can you measure up that? Are you better off? Or maybe not. So it is okay to look at the style of the essay. What story did you tell? Because eventually that will matter in the application phase. But the approach is as good as, except you want to lie, which obviously nobody should do in the application phase, is as good as meaningless If you don't even have the profile to build such a story, no matter the format I use, it is not appropriate. So your first step is a self-assessment plan. Like, you need to assess yourself against a particular set of metrics that can only be individually defined. Now, there are some generalized ones. Maybe have some papers, have some publications, contribute to some research work, have some skill sets, certifications. Those are generalized. But you need to go to the nitty gritty. Oh, Kenny, when Kenny was here. Well, all of us have different stories. Now, it doesn't mean you want to mirror another person's profile, but you see that all of them can be section. Then you want to score yourself. This person had a first class when they got, I had a first class. Okay, I think we're on par there for what is what. Oh, they said they have these skills. They did this certification. I don't have these certifications. Can I look into something similar or not? That is a gap we've recognized. Oh, I didn't have a first class. They have a first class. I have a second class upper. How can I beat measure up? They only have one papers that is submitted during the application in writing. Can I strive to have at least 2 or 3 papers? In this case, I'll be able to measure up and have an edge. Okay, so you have this counterbalance system such that you have this exhaustive list of what needs to be done regarding your profile. And that's the concept of building your academic profile for a particular purpose. In this case, getting a scholarship purpose, getting a scholarship itself. We could go to a different topic of building academic profile generally. What does it mean to be an academic expert? But as far as you are going to pursue postgraduate studies in the US, all over the country, you'll be well prepped when you get there. So the purpose of building this academic profile is towards getting to that space that will then further refine you to be a good academic. So if there's one key step or one major assignment you should take after this class, is one, having your self-assessment plan, against a particular step of metric. And I'm going to, in summary, what I'm saying is that like a bit of research has to go into this. What does a good competitive candidate look like that have attained success? Look at different examples, either by random search, either by reaching out to peers or mentors, make those exhaustively, compare that against yourself and recognize gaps and what you can use to be better. Now, that's the first step. So it's called the self-assessment process. Now, once you have that, you then want to start working on that. I recommend starting this step, luckily a year before, sometimes 6 months, but it's still possible even 3 months. Application timeline open from August to November, or to December, but I like to put November in my head. I recommend applying at least a month to 3 weeks before the deadline, or 2 weeks. So invariably, we still have about 90 days. There's a 90 days master plan that can work here if you initiate that approach today, your self-assessment plan. And that's why this session is very cute. I don't know how Stanley and his team are going to do it, because not only are you going to recognize the gap, there's skills that are needed to build, to kind of fill those gaps. For example, if your gap is research, that doesn't mean that, I recognize, let me just publish a paper tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. You need the skills and the intellectual reasoning, which brings me to the second part of my point. It's called training. Now, I do recommend resources to people that are unique to my field, but this program is so perfect that not only is preparing you to think about graduate school, it's also empowering you with the training needed. That you recognize a gap of like you've never contributed to any research study itself. You recognize that gap. The question then becomes the training. What do you need to do to be able to fill that gap? You need to learn how to do research, at least at the very least. What are the basics of research? What do you need to learn? And my understanding is this curriculum will cover it, right? So, but even beyond that training, but towards a defined output, right? Towards a defined output, research can be lengthy. It could take 6 months, it could take 1 year. And this way you also need peer mentorship in your field. And this is where, if you don't identify one, it can be very, very difficult to get. But you eventually, with persistence and consistency, you will get one. I'll get you the trick of getting a peer mentorship. What do you need in this process of training? You recognize the gap. I'm building a tree here gradually. You recognize the gap. Now you need to know what needs to be done to fill those gaps. For example, let's take research at this point. You need to be trained on how to do research. What skills you need to learn. This training will do part of it, but you also have to do a significant part of yourself. You guys are fortunate than most other generation in this application pool, but also you're also the most, well, I say the most challenged, because competition becomes strength. And I'll tell you why you're most fortunate. You have the greatest tool this world has ever seen, which is artificial intelligence. Now, I do not recommend doing your research and intelligence, but it's a tool. It's a very good assistant tool that can make you learn things faster, much more than you can imagine, help optimize your work, but invariably makes the competition become more fierce because the basic standard can increase for what is what. right? And if you ask AI to do everything, most scholarship will eventually interview you. So everything will open when they ask you technical questions and you can't even have an idea or a clear of it. But what that means that even beyond what this training can give you, you have a lot of leverage now and resources to also go to your own personalized training model. When I speak to people like, oh, a microbiologist come to me, and I'll use a lot of biology, science, and maybe AI example, because I also have a minor in bioinformatics I code, so I can try to play with that. Economics, social science, pressures, and the team, I guess, have people in that regard. But again, the principle is sort of generalized, so indulge me. Because you have a gap in research. If somebody come to me, okay, Kenny, I need this, I need that. I was like, have you done research before? No, they've not done. The approach is very simple. What can you do within 30 days to get something out and also learn why at it? What are you interested in? Recognizing your research interest. Microbiology is broad. Do you want to do bacteria? Do you want to do this? If that's the case, what problems are you looking to tackle? Can you write a review on it? Now, the process of review, and I like to say this also all the time, because even though we are working towards graduate school process, it's also a learning curve. A review strengthens you to recognize the gap in a field. Now, what does a review means for maybe some of you that might not be aware? There are different types of research, and this is not a research class, but just trying to say recognize the gap of research. A research that is driven by primary data. You have to go collect data. Either you have to do experiments, either you have to speak to people, either you have to do a questionnaire, a survey, get your data and analyze it. There's a secondary set of data where you kind of pull different studies done globally, then make inferences from it. I like the second one is tougher, but the time can be a bit short. It depends. It's relative actually. The first one is tougher scientifically also. But at least the resources you need for the second one comes around the study you have to do and start reading and reading and reading and making inferences. And while I recommend a review status, you can give yourself a timeline to kind of work with something and publish it out there. Again, not to delve into research more, a typical example is a preprint. What is a preprint? A preprint is something that when you write something currently, it is not subjected to peer review. So when you submit to a journal, it goes to peer review, it goes back and forth, and you cannot control that timeline, unfortunately. So it might not even meet your time of study for what is worth. But now it is a standard practice that you can publish online a preprint while your work is in peer review, but at least to show what you are capable of doing. So that's if you recognize, let's say, a research gap. Let's say the gap recognizes a volunteering gap, because you need that. You need a bit of extracurricular activities, right? It is a volunteering gap. You've not participated in things that might be related to what you're interested in. And the kind of scholarship matters on what this gap might be. And that's why I said you need this self-assessment on what you want to pursue and what you want to do. I'll give you two instances. When I applied for my graduate school for PhD microbiology, my application package was totally forward-leaning on my microbiology expertise. Oh, I did an internship in Federal Industrial Research in Oshodi, in lawsuits. I've published 5 papers, 6 papers. And I had to fill those gaps. But when I applied for Shivning, which I also got at the same time, I applied in the same year. I leaned forward with my volunteering work that, yeah, I'm a first class. I didn't write more about my academic in less than a paragraph. The other 5 or 6 paragraphs of that question, it's about my work in volunteering, where I established the first SDGs group in Nigeria that moved on to have over 20,000 people globally. That I did this, I did that. Because I know Shivning is more leadership driven. But even though I'm applying for a master's in microbiology. So, and that is why this self-assessment matters. And it doesn't also have to be one. So if you are considering the first scholarship, you are considering Erasmus Mundus scholarship, you are considering Shivning scholarship, you are considering a PhD program in the US, you must know and that is why you need to look at the profile of each person to do this self-assessment for each section and start filling the plug. Nobody can do this for you. It's a very difficult and tedious process if you do it well. And if you can start today, but you can't finish it today. But you can actually in a week for what is what. Because you have to do a lot of research. What are you looking at getting? What do people have? What don't you have? Yeah. And for me, this is the most crucial stage in building your profile. And that's what we call it a competitive academic profile. The title said building a competitive academic profile. I can have an academic profile. Let's say my profile is just having my papers, done a lot of internship, contributed. I can only apply to programs like maybe masters or PhD in US and this. I can't use that to apply for Shivning if I don't have a leadership stint around it, if I've not done anything around it. Because it means, while I have a very good account, but it's not competitive enough for what I'm intending to pursue, for what is what. Maybe you can spin the narrative for Shivning for, but it's not necessarily the most ideal. Right? So, and this is where assessment comes in. Even the greatest expert does that for every cycle of applications that you want to do. So the second part is that then recognizing that you want to fill those gaps is training, right? So, you want to see which different part of it do you need to be trained, who do you need to reach to, which brings me to my third trick, having a peer mentor in the field. We can say peer mentor, a senior mentor. I see everybody as my colleague, so I use that as peer, but someone that maybe have kind of achieved what you are aiming to, ideally a Nigerian. And it's not that difficult. Nigerians are everywhere. The problem is that how do you get the attention of these people? My LinkedIn is a mess. I have thousands of messages unreplied to. I try to reach some of them, but some I always reply to, no matter what. And this is the trick. Imagine somebody tried to connect with me and they reached out to me via email or LinkedIn. Hi, nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. I would need your help for a scholarship. If it's only that person that is reaching out to me, I'll reply them. Oh, it's fine, let's talk. But I can't. I have like 1,000 others. What do you mean? Hi, how are you doing? I'll need your help for a scholarship. I don't understand. Like, why? How? When I reached out to my first peer mentor, I'll never forget. After my year of rejection, despite my profile. When I reached out, it was Jake. He's not a professor. He's not even a law person, but I think I attended the seminar session. Then I saw that he was the speaker in graduate school. And I was like, okay, let me reach out to you. At least I didn't get it the first time. And it was a LinkedIn message. And I reached out, hi, Dr. Jake. My name is Kenny. I attended this year's session. So I kind of established interest. You could also meet the person online. And I'm very much interested in a graduate school profile, in a graduate school admission process. But for context, these are the things I've been doing over the years to prep me ready for this. Listed the GRE that I registered for. I think I wrote TOEFL already, kind of put in my score, attached my CV, and what I think might be some of the gaps. Then he replied me. Even one of his first comments, and nobody has ever reached out to him that way before, in a very logical standard, I know what they want. Now, there are mistakes in what I've written to even my CV. There are mistakes that when he pointed it out, but it's more of the intent. He's decided to work with such a person. Like there's a colleague, like in one student reached out to me last year, sociology student. I don't know why, kind of wrote an email of what they are working on, what they are research interested in, what they would like to do. And they have this attachment of the gaps that they think they need to fill, but they just need someone to talk to. But even when they're like, they would just appreciate if I can spare like an hour of my time every month for them. They also recognize that I might be very busy. I spend more than 1 hour every week now to kind of look at it because it's very exciting. Like, oh, can I look at it? And I connected them to even a much more aligned person. So when you reach out to people, it's also very important how you put yourself up because you need a peer mentor. They know the tricks better than you can ever imagine. I've been opportune to, so many persons apply to my profile, to my department now, right? And I see so many competitive candidates that didn't get in, but another person's getting. Why? Because I can tell you, don't mention these professors in your application. If you are coming to my school, they are not taking students. These other will take students. These little details matters, but we are going to get there when we go to searching for your school in a moment. And this is why peer mentorship matters. So I started this call, letting them like, you can build all the profile you want, which is the first most important step. But it is not enough. But the others are sort of auxiliaries, which is why building that profile matters. That self-assessment matters. So the pre-application phase is the most lengthy period, most sophisticated period, understanding these key things. Then when you then get to the application phase, this becomes very interesting, but easier to manage. It's like when you want to write your personal statements. You can attend the session. I'm sure this training will tell you how to write personal statements, SOP. I'm not sure if I'm coming back from the session. And I'll be honored to because I think there are ways to do that. But the easiest personal statement to write are people that have the profile that can write something about, that can use example. I've edited personal statement of, okay, you have a bachelor's in this. And what again? Like, to give an idea of their research interest. The narrative of my uncle is common in biology. I don't know if it's common in this. When I was growing up, something as cancer, application officers, they've read that like 1,000,000 times. That doesn't do the trick anymore, right? So, but once you have a profile, even if it's, and I don't discount the application for that, but you will see whether, I call it, the word is going off on my mind. Documentary evidence here, that's the word. You so claim that this is your research interest, right? You're very much interested in either by your personal experience, fine. But by your second or third paragraph, I have to see documentary evidence that shows to me that truly you are interested in that. Because if the only thing I can see is you mentioned that you have that interest, you've not done anything around that area before, neither your thesis work, a little bit of a published work, an ongoing study, then I don't believe that. It is impossible for me to believe that. You just cook up something so you want to apply and give me a good story. Not even in the context of AI, where AI can actually make everything come up for anyone. So it is impossible. And that's why the pre-application phase matters. Let's say after this, your 12 weeks period, right? You've contributed to research, you've attended a bit of online conference, you have 3 or 4 certification. Say you're interested in artificial intelligence for international relations. Maybe you want to, that's what your research interest is. What will I expect you to do in recent time? What are the core skills of artificial intelligence you need to learn, right? What are the core skills of national relations you need to learn? Have you contributed to papers regarding the nexus of AI and international relations? Are you sharing some of your opinions? Now, you don't even need to publish, even with a simple Substack article that you can highlight in your application packet. It shows to me that you're not an expert. And I let people recognize this. You're going for a master's and a PhD, not because they are not admitting an expert. They are just admitting a promising candidate. I think to say this. So you don't need to be that person that published in the topmost journal to get in. But you must be promising and convincing enough that the committee will believe that should they admit you, you'll be successful. And that's what is needed. So these little things comes together to make the application packet. And that's why it's very, very cool. So I don't have any lists of what you need to have. You will prepare that list. But they will be mostly in this 5 thematic area. 1, you are a very strong academic profiling, either shows by your CGPA or your continuous work. What do I mean by that? If you have a good CGPA, that's great. If you don't, have you taken some diploma certifications to kind of counterbalance what you have to do well, etc., etc. The second is a bit of a research stint, right? Particularly if you are going for a thesis-based study. Even though a research stint, a academic digital footprint regarding some of your opinions, that you can highlight. That's very, very important. The third would be a bit of your extracurriculars. Now, your extracurriculars do not necessarily have to be academic, but it's your ability to kind of show further, like you can be an holistic person, right? To contribute, in a space with people, because they also look at that. It's very, very important. What do you bring to us? Can you connect with other people or diverse team? And which brings me to my fourth, right? Is do you have ability to, and this is mostly seen also, is an extension of extracurricular, but I've got to it as a bit of a leadership skill. Now, you don't need to be a founder of something, but can you make a case for yourself that you've gotten things done from A to Z? And you will see it will show in everything you're doing. And lastly is your skills, both soft and hard skills, right? The hard and soft skills that you have. Now, in this case, you want to bring on board that what are the soft and hard skills that you've built over the years, either through teaching, either through research tools, either through coding. What are the hard skills and what are the soft skills that you also have in some ways? Now, once and the sections can go on and on. If you can even fill these 5 almost perfectly, you have a good standing academic profile to kind of believe, to deal with. Will I tell you the specific of each? The answer is no, I can't. I could do that, but you have to figure out that yourself, and that's where your self-assessment comes. Now, it will be a miss, which being the second part of my talk, which maybe this is where you guys thought I would have started. It will be a miss to then say that, go build your profiles. Now, when you're done building your profile, then we can start talking about the school. You don't have that time. You do not. You have to know how to work in parallels. Now, you need to think, okay, what schools are you going to apply for? Even you cannot even recognize those gaps per se. Yeah. And let me kind of re-emphasize the point. You see that self-assessment that I said? It's a dynamic process. I don't know if you guys know the word iteration in design thinking. It's iterative. It's a gap. It's an assessment that you keep doing over and over as you look at new schools or new program you want to apply for. So it needs to be iterative. I do it to date. Whenever I want to apply for a fellowship, I look at what I have, what I don't have, what can I work on before. And you will learn it even when you travel abroad for your immigration matters. For those in the US that are used to things like EB1 visa, you do those assessments over and over again. So for anything you do in your life before graduate school, never forget the rule of self-assessment. Like, what don't I have and what do I have for these things? So, but the second part is that like you need to work in parallel in preparing the grants for what program are you applying for, what schools are you applying for, and you have to make that call. How do you go about this? I will share my screen in a moment. I have a master sheet that guided me during my own process. But this is where you ask the question: what do you want to do? Do you want to do a master's? Do you want to do a PhD? Are you still undecided, but you want to apply for both of them? What programs are you looking at? Are you interested in biology, in biochemistry? Is it too broad? Do you want to find a niche? Answer some of those personalized questions based on what you want to do. Now, once you've done that, you need to have an idea of, okay, what schools for US you want to apply based on schools. For Europe, do you want to apply based on scholarships? Like you have to start listing them down, knowing what they are. So based for the US, you rarely see programs that are based on scholarships. And what I mean by that is, you can apply for something like MasterCard Foundation, Erasmus, just apply based on schools. US schools are heavily funded themselves. Most times when you get in, it's mostly funded or you get internal scholarship from the school, right? Depending on the program, though, for what is what. So let's say you're working with US schools. You then need to section thing. What kind of schools do you want to go into? How do you get these schools? The first is a random Google search, which can be a biased thing, but also very important. A random Google search, say you want to apply for masters in epidemiology, masters in public health, or masters in sociology, and such masters in geology in US school. You will see schools, very good schools. But the algorithm is so biased that it's going to bring out the topmost schools for you. Maybe the top 100 in it or the top 20. And by all means, apply to that. For what is what, I did apply to some of them. Look at through those schools, look at the students. Are there some Nigerian students? Are there international students? That should not be your limitation point. Why are you interested in it? Why are you not? Go to their page. I'll do a typical example in a moment for you guys. Now go to their page, etc., etc. But you also want to use a rule of very competitive school and safe schools. Most of these schools are very, at least I can speak to the US as another country. They are very, very, very standard schools that what you even define as safe school are actually better than all schools in Africa. Now, what do you define as safe school and not safe schools? It's based on a competitive pool, right? Okay, what number is this? I tend to look at number 1 to 100 school, highly competitive school. I apply to them. If I'm applying to 10 schools or 5 schools, they take 30% of my application pool. I have a 30% of my application pool for middle tier schools, then that 30% for very good school, but in quotes, compared to relative to the other one, they are not the best. Because so you kind of spread your probability of application, but still not against the field of what you want to apply to. You create all of these lists. I start with creating about 20 or 30 or 50 schools, even though I eventually may apply. I apply for 7, and I have a list of close to 100 schools or something. Then I started sectioning down bit by bit. It's a lot of work. And that's why it cannot wait while you're building your profile. It has to be a bit of a parallel work, right? I would share my screen in a moment and show you in real time how does this look like. Yeah. So just give me a moment. But while I do that, is there any question, um, concerns, specific case studies you want me to speak to? Yeah. You can also ask your own personal question based on what you think. Oh, I'm currently looking at doing this. We can look at some case by case basis.
Let me check on the comment section and see if there is.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, nobody have. Okay, you can. I've not seen any question, but you can. Any of you can type in your question there. So probably at the end, he would have to probably address them, just like he said. If you have your personal questions and all of that, put it put it in the comment section.
Thank you so much, Stanley, for that. I think I'm also almost set. I think you make me a co-host. Let's see if I can. So I joined on my computer. I'm not sure I can see the name Kenny. Are you able to make me a co-host on that particular?
Wait, let me check. What did I do? I saw.
No,
Okay.
yeah, I just joined now my computer to be able to share my screen. I've been talking on my iPad since. Yeah,
So okay, Kenny, not
yeah, Kenny.
K,
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
saw Kane there.
yeah, Kenny. Yeah.
Okay, let me make Kane there. Okay,
Thank you so much.
yeah, I have done it.
Thank you so much. I think
Yeah.
I see that now. Great. I can share my screen. Now, this is a typical example that I usually share when I train. For what is what, A lot of people that I've worked with build this list exhaustively. And it's a master sheet, you can develop yours as you like. Let's say you're interested in this university, right? You search for Stanford universities, maybe the program. I was looking at doing a PhD in microbiology, and if it's not microbiology, like this, a program that has a microbiology unit, whatever. I was very clear what I want, and I was searching, speaking to people. But I have this sheet that make things very quite interesting. Sorry, I saw a question. I'll come back to that. I don't understand your question yet, but I'll ask you to clarify later. But the program, the website is there, and this is one trick that I think cost me the hard way. I don't tend to put the links here. Then you go back to searching Google, and there are so many journeys when you go to a university website to get to the specific place you want to about their program. And I'm going to show you a typical example. Let's say you search for PhD program or master's program in this. It mostly will take you to, let's do a typical example. Let's say I search for master's. Let's say in social work. I'm not sure which university has that. Let's see. Yeah. So there's this website for US schools for what it's worth. It's called US News. It's going to give you a lot of schools that have stuff. The only problem about this website is that it's going to give you just top schools, which I 100% recommend you apply to. But sorry, I don't want to find a typical example of a school. Otherwise, I'll use my science example that I know so well. Okay, University of Chicago, I have a master's in social work. So let's speak on that. So this is a typical example. When you come to this page, right? This is, master's in social work, University of Chicago. And you're quite fortunate because this kind of brought you to the school website itself. We see Grant Family School of Social Work Policy and Practice. Technically, what this is telling you is that like everything you need to know about this program is on this page. Most websites will not go into this. They will give you a link to a graduate bulletin where you can search for every of the program they do, and they will put a brief about the program, even what you need to get in. And that is very deceitful, not because it's not the best of information, but the point I'm trying to communicate is every program in most schools globally, maybe except Nigeria, maybe some other African school, most schools globally have a dedicated website hosted under the or under the school's website. Like if you look at the link, I will now I'm in the right spot when I can see I'm in crownschool.uchicago.edu. What this means is that I'm literally in the faculty website itself. So it means I'm in the right place. But when you see, let's say I'm just in uchicago.gradschool.edu bulletin or whatever, I'm not there yet. You must find this particular link. But why am I showing you this? Is that it's not the easiest thing to get to this link. So once you found it, you just want to put it on your sheets immediately. So you don't have to go through the cycle of, okay, where's the specific website? You must lock it in on your sheet for whatever is good. Are there names of people you need to put on board? For some of you that are interested in research, you might want to have advisors. We call it professors or supervisors that you want to work with. Are there their names? Why are you selecting them? Is their email there? Do they have a website about them? Or maybe a page to their Google Scholar profile, whatever the case may be. I want to believe you guys know Google Scholar based on your previous training and research. What is the application deadline? Right? Why am I best fit? Now, this is also an example. You want to kind of ensure you convince yourself that, okay, why am I considering this school? My interest matches. I'm eligible based on their minimum requirements. Do I have some research background with some faculty? What are my call to actions for this school to know whether I'm applying for not? I want to email this particular professor. I want to email the graduate coordinator to ask questions. Can I see current students? Is there an application fee? Is there a waiver that I can get? Do I have any other remarks? And you can open so many tabs as you like. have an exhaustive list based on some of your interests. And as you start taking those call to action steps, you'll be ruling out so many schools. Some will stay, some will win the battle. I do a lot of color coding. I'm trying to look for one of my mentees, but I really can't find it. But it's a that just got an admission recently. Multiple offers, but also started with about 70 schools. He applied to about 11 or 12. Out of the 11, he got few waivers for like 8 or 9 of them. But it was an exhaustive step. Which of them have fee waivers? And you see some comments like, I just need to attend the webinar to get a fee waiver. For some of them, I need to email to get a fee waiver. But these are things you get either from speaking to people or emailing them. So it's an exhaustive process. But you must do it in parallel to building your profile. It can't wait. It's a very lengthy process. But it's important as you kind of navigate this step, such that when you then get to the application phase, but this also is the pre-application phase, so that when you get to the application phase, not only are you academically fit, I think I'm just gonna mute this.
Welcome, sir.
Is this press?
Yeah, thank you for me.
Sorry about that. Just
Yeah.
continue.
So that when you then get to your application phase, two things would have happened. Not only have you built your profile to a large physical extent because you've done your self-assessment, you've worked on those self-assessments, you've then built your profile. You are also then applying to the right schools because you've done this very interesting level of filtration, of filtering different schools, such that you are putting your foot in the right place. You can be the best of students, but if you apply to the wrong place, either because they don't do what you are interested in, they don't have funding for your line of direction, some schools just admit only one international student every year. I don't know why nobody will subject yourself to that. You could try your luck if it's a free application, right? They don't have a track record of it. But if you are doing that, you want to have your backup plan, right? So they must work in parallel. While you are building your profile, you're also building your application portfolios to ensure that both of them then converges to get success. So when you get to the application phase, so this is something I hope you take a cue from as you're trying to do this. So there are so many practical next steps here, and I know it can be a lot. And the practical next step include, again, asking yourself the question: what do you want? What do you want to do? Recognizing those that have done it before. What are the metrics you want to assess yourself against? Build those metrics first by speaking to people, by searching online, then assess yourself, recognize your gap, tackle it one step at a time. It's very, very, very important. On the other hand, you want to recognize what kind of scholarships do you want to apply for. This is just for US schools. For some of them, it's not about schools. Some of them is about scholarship program. It could be scholarships, MasterCard Foundation scholarships. What do they have a program? What are the major eligibility they need? Those that have gotten it, what are their profiles? Why are you a best fit? What needs to be done before the application timeline? What can you do? It could be Erasmus Mundus scholarship, right? It could be Shivni scholarship. It could even be the Rhodes scholarship, right? A lot of scholarship like that you just have to keep searching, and based on information, you see them. But for whether it's schools of these, you must build a roadmap line. And Excel sheets can help you do all of this. You can just open different tabs, right? Your first tab, second tab. So, and always work on a Google Doc or a Google Excel sheet such that you avoid story that touch. Even if your laptop break down, anything, you can always go back to your email and get these things because these are very, very exhaustive things to do. So, and I think those are the two things that truly matters while you are doing this. The third thing I want to speak about, and I'll stop sharing my screen here, is extracurriculars. And maybe I will not stop sharing my screen. Extracurriculars. And this matters a lot, a whole lot. There are two ways to go about extracurriculars. It could be related, maybe related to your work, to your interests, and it might not. And what do I mean by extracurriculars? For me, I'm very passionate about social work, giving back to the community. And it's based on my own experience. I grew up, I don't know those of you that lived in Lagos. I was born in Bariga. Both of my parents are not learned, but they gave me the best. But it was not until when I got to the university that I knew that we were poor. I lived so much in the poor community, I didn't know that we were poor. Right? It was an interesting reality for me to realize that. But I think on a fateful day, somebody did reach out with, some of you might be aware, with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 goals. And the aim of the UN is to create a world that is better. Goal 1 is no poverty. Goal 2 is zero hunger. Goal 3 is good health and well-being, and you can go to goal 17. But I can remember vividly the first day I saw those 17 set of goals, it felt more like an illusion to me. Like all these things you guys want to achieve are the problems that defined my foundational life from birth till now, right? Then the guys I can just volunteer to help support this. And I started volunteering one step at a time, recognize the problem I'm passionate about. I saw that I had to choose between people made me feel like I can never forget that like you're in science, you're in faculty of science, you don't have time to do extracurriculars, just need to focus on your work. And there's this divide between you cannot do other things. It's only people in faculty of, and this is not a jab to anyone because this is what I fought against for, and I'm still fighting against. That it's only those in social science and math science should be doing all these extracurricular UI sciences. You are training to be one. You should not have the time for that. And I felt that as wrong narrative. We have a problem significantly, and you're telling me that some of us should not be trained to give back to the community. So I founded this club. It's called SDGs Arts, bringing STEM students all over the world. In last week for a start. So kind of okay, what can we do to just talk about the goals, organize small event like clean last day. So we go every Friday to pick all the litters and section it for recycling. Doesn't take much of our time. Just meet 2 hours every Friday. Do what we have to do. And from bit by bit, we started solving problems, creating problems, got different offers. And ironically, the organization grew so wide to about 10 universities in the country, thousands of people, that my first job after graduation was with the UN, not my microbiology I'm passionate about. So I worked with the UN for like a year before I traveled for my scholarship. But what I'm trying to say here is that you need to look at what problem are you passionate about? And in your own little way, what can you do? Is it through online advocacy? Are you just even creating graphic online, fighting against, you know, social stigmatization? Are you taking initiative? I like to, it's always a very interesting thing for me to align this in application package because why you need this for your application to kind of show that you are passionate about the problem, you've done this before. I also don't want that to be your own motivation, that you are doing this just because you want to get in. I think I like to call the need for you to know that, like, in your own most little way, even just by posting online, you can give back. But it also matters because the world recognizes that. Because you saw a problem that you can tackle yourself and you can solve. And this matters a lot. You also don't need to found an organization. You could be a volunteer somewhere. You could join the goal. Look at Dreams, what Precious is doing currently, right? You could be a volunteer there, recognizing this. You could be at the back end.
Dream to impact.
Yeah, Dream to Impact. Yeah, sorry, the name scheme. Look at Dreams to Impact. I can remember when you want to start this. It was a Millennium Fellowship project for him, and I was a Millennium Fellow in 2018, the first global cohort ever. And as grace will have it, I move on to become the program manager of the fellowship for the UN globally. And that was when Precious applied. And I was reading his application. I was like, oh, you want to do this? Okay, let's see. And the fellowship give a good starting point. It was meant to be a 3-month project. Do the fellowship and graduate. But look at it today. Like, and that's why whenever it calls on me, I'm always happy to answer because I saw how he started. And this was so fundamental also in his next steps in whatever I eventually decide to do. So you can't know how things goes, but there must also be a part of you that's kind of put a figment of, okay, what can you do to give back? What can you do to beat extracurriculars? And these will give you the skills that your academic cannot give you. I learned how to speak publicly from my extracurricular work, and that is why, by God's grace, I have this belief. Just don't invite me to an interview. As far as I get an interview invite, I've gotten in. Because to a large extent, I know I can convince anybody in an interview. It's getting to that interview stage that I usually get tons of rejections. So I still get rejections to date. Let me also put that out there, no matter how good you are. But I built this from extracurricular, speaking to people, watching emotions, being emotive. I can't even help it. When I'm speaking about something exciting, you will see it in my face. When I'm talking about a problem, you will see it because how to relate with people at different levels is something I've learned over the years. And it's not performative, it becomes intrinsic to you. And this matters to convince another party, right? Even in teaching. Like volunteering in teaching is what I did all through my undergrad. I always do tutorial to get. And now that I'm from a PhD teaching here in the US, I serve as a visiting lecturer to 3 universities in Nigeria, teaching bioinformatics, coding, molecular biology for free because they don't have somebody to teach that. And I'm excited about it, right? To just give back because I also learn new things happening. that my research is not helping in that. It takes time. So, and I'm saying this because not only when you then get it, I would have stopped those things when I got those offers. And then and interestingly enough, because I still do those things, there are so many, so many fellowship that I've gotten here. That is not because I'm a good researcher in microbiology, but because, let's nominate Kenny. He does the social stuff, and this fellowship is for people doing this. He always come back to you. And that's the last note I want to end with. So to bring it all together, the pre-application process is what sets you up for a very good application phase. Now, are there nitty-gritties in the application phase? Yes, that will be discussed. But even if you are so perfect in writing the best SOPs, in bringing together the best CVs, it's as good as meaningless if you don't have the profile for it. Because what are you going to write? You want to lie? And the pre-application phase, how do you then know what to work on? What is the road step? This is not a motivational talk. It's meant to be practical. It's a self-assessment approach. And this is me summarizing everything I said in case you missed anything. It said, what do you want for yourself? Who has achieved what you want? Or who are the people? What are the expectations? Set those metrics against yourself. Then where do you stand? Where do you have your core strengths? Be honest. Don't say because you are giving yourself red, like, and you said, oh my God, 10 out of 10, you have weakness. That's fine. That's your starting point. It's your life. Be honest with yourself. Why do you want to score yourself 5 out of 10? If you are fortunate, it's 5 out of 10, then great. Then it can't be 10 out of 10. You're not being honest. Myself, I've never had a 10 out of 10, even to date. In every application I want to, I still see so many weak points I need to work on because I chose to see beyond in code what I think I have. Now, seeing those weak points, recognizing them, you also need mentorship, peer mentorship. I've given you some cues on how to kind of reach out to mentors, colleagues. You need an accountability partner. So there are two types of mentorship. You need a senior person that have done it before, but someone that also wants to work with you. Either you're achieving almost the same goal, might be in different field that you can be accountable towards. I had one. I had two actually. I also have a twin brother that is doing his PhD in artificial intelligence. But even though I was here above him at the time, it was a very good accountability partner to me. We kind of measured things together. Okay, what's going on? What's not going on? You need that. And you need to start working on it one step at a time. Recognizing each gap. Where do you need training? Some training will be gotten from platforms like this. Some training are personalized. Internet, artificial intelligence, you can use to learn stuff. Going above and beyond in the ways you can. Now, the third thing I did then mention is that you also need to do it in parallel in creating your programs, the scholarship you want to apply for, such that you don't start building gaps that doesn't close the gaps you will see in those programs. So they eventually connect to each other, right? So you want to say, okay, why are you best fit? What do you need to work on? You go back to repopulate your self-assessment sheets and see what you need to work on. But beyond the academic profile itself, you need something that will stand you out, something you can speak about. And this is about extracurriculars. What are you volunteering? What are you solving? It could be a social media stuff. It's as simple as that. You know, it's a classical example is I remember winning the Union Bank of Nigeria Rise Award for COVID-19 because we chose to take during the COVID-19 pandemic. Then I was in Nigeria. We took the WHO guideline and converted it to all the languages, Pidgin, Hausa, Igbo, then went to rural communities and shared it so that people didn't know what to do. It was a simple initiative. It took time, but not money resources that we didn't have at the time, right? So you can actually solve problems if you are truly genuinely interested in it. And this matters a lot. And lastly, you also want to always keep your check. Prepare for rejections. It will happen. You can just minimize it. And the police process help you minimize it. And it makes it better over time. So I think I will stop here. There are so many other parts of application skills. How do you write? How do you answer an interview questions? How do you do that? And I'm sure there are so many good experts coming. I'm also coming back again. I don't know the topic. I'm sure Precious shared it. But I'll be happy to discuss every one of them. So with this, I'll take any of your questions. I don't know how many minutes I have left for questions. But I'll take any of your questions and we can go ahead from there. Thank you so much. And sorry that I was late again. Yeah. Yeah, I think I can see question in the chat first. Thank you so much for the reactions. Hello, size. Please, is the graduate scholarship open for all courses or only for academia? I don't know what you mean by that, but see if I can understand this. You want to do a master's or PhD in an academic institution, but you don't have to want to work as an academic person. That is, don't have to be a professor or a lecturer to get scholarships. If that's what you're asking, no, like scholarship is for anything you want to do, right? But again, you have to apply for an academic institution. Or except you're asking for online certification courses. If there are scholarships, yes, they are. But your question is a bit blurry, so I'm assuming. So you might want to clarify that, actually. Well, yeah, there are scholarships beyond going to the universities or so. But yeah, I think so. The next question here is from Favor. Do schools in the US still admit Nigeria? And does latest travel ban prevent Nigeria from going to the US? This is a very sad reality now. Do schools still admit? A lot of them still do. I have so many of my mentees that have gotten fully funded offers, and they are just praying that this ban gets lifted. I remember when the ban came into effect in January, like last year also, most of them are discouraged. They also didn't want to continue the process. So just continue, get the offer. Like, what will you lose? At the worst case scenario, most schools are able to ask them to defer. Right? Because if there's one thing that is certain, I don't know when, but it's certain the ban will be lifted. We just don't know when. Right? That's a certainty. Now, maybe this
Yeah.
guy leave power. So, but I also recommend a backup. So while they are pursuing schools in the US, they also apply to Europe, they apply to these. And the only thing about the US is US is very, maybe the funding is a bit reduced, but when you compare to other places, the funding is also very huge. And some schools are very fortunate. They deferred their admission for 1 year, kept their funding for a year that they understand that it's beyond them. So these things happen, even though you can't control it, look at what you can do, but you also want to make smart decisions, right? The best plan is for some of them that were only looking at the US. I cautioned against that. Apply to other countries. And again, Stanley, feel free to chime in some of these answers to this question. I know you are very much experienced. It's
Let me just add to what
yeah.
you just said. In addition to what Kenny said, I will advise you if you have another country you've gotten, like for instance, in Edo Africa, last year we awarded about 10 persons scholarship to pay their application fee up to $250
Mhm.
each of them. So, and this year, a lot of them got admitted with fully funded. We have somebody who got in Texas,
Mhm.
PhD fully funded. We have somebody who got in WIU, Western Illinois
No, university.
University.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, who got fully funded masters and all that. But yeah, just like you said, the ban, and we don't want to be talking about the ban too
Yeah.
much time,
Yeah.
especially in the public. It's an immigration issue, and all of us in the US, every Nigerian student in the US, some of us that are doing PhD and masters, we are all following the process. We are in fact the way most of us we are even paying more attention on on USCIS than even in our studies these days. But we don't want to go into deep of that discussion now. But the only thing I will advise you is this: if you have another country, just go, just go to
Mhm.
that country. Then keep this one by the side. Like one of the guys, one of our mentees at Edu Africa, who currently we paid for his application to Texas University and he got the admission and fully funded there. We also paid for him at, I think there is another university in France, in China, and also in Italy. So he actually got all of these schools. So at the moment, what I told him in our last session was that he should process the one of Italy,
Mhm.
the one of
Mhm.
China, and the one of France. We told him just leave those ones, process the one of Italy. All of them are fully funded. Then go to Italy, stay there, start your program there. If by God's grace, then defer mostly the one of US, defer it to 2027. So if by God's grace, the ban is lifted by next year, which hopefully we are hoping that it would, then you can process the one that you're deferred and you can apply for visa from there. But if it didn't, then accept it as your fate because it's
Mhm.
only once that school can defer.
Mhm.
They can't defer again. So it means that you're going to lose that opportunity by
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah.
So if you lose the opportunity, is not a bad thing. Next year, or maybe when the ban is now lifted, I don't advise you to apply again while the ban is still on. Don't just continue your program there in Italy. If you finish, by God's grace, the ban is lifted, you can probably submit application again. If you got it the first time, you will still get it the second time. In fact, by then you must have even had some
Oh,
more,
yeah, way better application.
yeah, to get it. So it's okay. So if it's the ban does not stop you from applying, if you have gotten admission, if you have gotten funding, just at this time, which is July, I advise you to start planning to defer. There is no magic. Don't believe that there will be a magic for you to come to America this year. Even if most of us or most of you guys, you always attend some of these prayer places, and they will tell you what God cannot do does not exist, and then you go and be killing yourself that you're coming to America in August. This is July. I know the process. Kenny knows the process, so it's not going to be possible for you to come to America in August now. It's not possible. So start planning to defer to 2027. That's what I can advise you. And then if you have another school that you have gotten admission, process that one and go move on with that one for now. Thank you.
Thank you
Continue
so
your.
much. Yeah, yes. No, I think you answered it perfectly spot on. So,
So
Somebody
I
was
have a question.
go
I
ahead,
don't know if I
please.
can ask you.
Go ahead.
All right. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Mr. Kenny, for this session. I really enjoyed it. I wanted to ask about the extracurricular activities. You
Mhm.
mentioned that we can do volunteering activities outside our area, like what we want to do research in. And I wanted to ask, how can we find this like voluntary act to participate in to build our profile? How can we find these volunteering activities to participate in? And can we really do volunteering activities outside our, would that not just be like waste of efforts?
What's your area? Let's make it. What's
Chemistry,
your
analytical chemistry.
Great. So I think it's two sides of a coin, right? One, can you volunteer outside of your area? Certainly, yes, because that will be in your CV, and also you also mention it softly in your application package, right? So, for example, you can volunteer for there's so many initiatives on water pollution, clean this, clean that. So, what ways can you find them? Social media is your best bet. Just even googling this campaign or that campaign, you can see so many pages you can go into. There's one in front of you. Say, what are you find? I'm sure if you message Precious, want to volunteer, something they would. So it's always available around you. That's one for if you are just looking for something. But I recommend starting with passion, right? What are you necessarily passionate about? Like, what problem are you passionate about? And you can easily social media is your best bet. That's where most of the people have advised go through. Just searching on, oh, does somebody do this? Does somebody do that? And kind of testing them. Oh, you love to volunteer. I'll tell you, no NGO, maybe fully established NGO, no like the dream to impact, even the SG that I run. Nobody will email us. Yeah, I know you guys who love to volunteer. They will certainly say yes. Policy shapers, they will give you the onboarding form. You will maybe do some training based on what they have, and you will come in. Like nobody says no to volunteering because it's an opportunity to volunteer your time, irrespective of whether you are learning out of it. Can you do something out of it? Definitely yes, like 100% yes, and that's the whole process of extracurriculars, right? You know, for me, I was in microbiology and I did SDGs on my years. I supported 17 goals, but I used that as a leverage of my ability to kind of work with diverse set of people. Because in your application packet also, there's usually a diversity statement that most of them will ask you to write. Maybe not anymore in this new US, but like most schools still have a diversity statement, right? And there's an opportunity to let them, they're like, oh, you work in this community of people, even something totally different from you, and you're able to do this and do that, recognizing this. So you can, it's still a plus for you. If you are visited on your field, chemistry, right? There's so many things you can also do here. Volunteering teaching. All through my time in undergrad, I did a lot of teaching for secondary school students that want to take JAMP, free training and lessons and just going to places. And I was teaching mostly for free. My spare time was volunteering because I schooled in Lasu and Okoko is not far from me, and there was a great need for that, right? Then I went there, I saw some centers where they are doing it. I was like, I can do this for free. Graciously, this person, they give me transport fare, sometimes lunch allowance. But that was the major part of my application packet because I could cite it that I have a teaching skills. Because most of the scholarship you also get from some of these places are teaching assistantship, right? The point being that, yes, you have to do one or two of your search, but it's not as difficult as you think it is. And it could be related to your stuff, but it's also not related. We're not entirely also kind of, we not harm you at all. Not there are ways to kind of phrase it. You also be a part of your CV, right? So even now, so many online volunteering also can be there that you can do for what is what. There's someone that did graphic designing, the ability to be creative. And when they I remember reading that SOP, it was one of the most famous I wrote. And they made a case that they have the ability to illustrate abstract ideas out graphically because they are graphic designer. And you need that using biology a lot, even though they are not doing biological preparation. Right? So it will always work out, and that's what I'm. You're muted, bless. But I think there was an echo from your end. That's why you are muted.
I muted her because somebody was. You can unmute and speak now. Blessing.
I think our network is bad. Yeah.
Blessing, you can unmute. If you're unable to unmute, okay, let's go to Favor Daniels.
Okay, I can speak now. Thank you so much, sir. You mentioned about diversity statement, but I feel like if we were going to that would lead us into more talk. I really want to know what that means, diversity statement. And secondly, I've not really gotten a particular area or aspect of analytics because analytical chemistry is very broad actually. So I'm still trying to know the area that I'm really interested in. For someone like me now, can I now go about searching for schools that would offer analytical chemistry for masters, or what's the best method for me to start going about researching for the schools to apply for?
You already have your niche now. You want to do analytical chemistry. It can't be more niche than that. Let me start with that at the face of application. So you can say masters in chemistry, but what? The organic, physical, analytical. That's your niche. However, because you are talking science, you must be able to spin a narrative about your specific research interest in analytical chemistry. What questions do you want to pursue? And this is where training matters. So, for example, one of the gaps I could see from what you recognize is, yes, you want analytical chemistry, but what kind of research do you want to do there? Are you interested in? I'll tell you one thing, and I think Stanley can agree. You would likely do that research when you get here. But, you just need to be able to kind of spin a narrative about questions that excite you. How do you spin this narrative? You have to read. Some you might be fortunate that your undergrad projects sync directly and you can spin it with it. In some, maybe it doesn't. You just have to read. I'm going to use your question to answer another person's question here, which is about cold emails. I didn't speak about how to do personal statements, cold emails here at all. These are the specific thing, because this is about building your profile. I've never had an unsuccessful cold email before. Every email I read usually get responded to. But it took me years to develop. No, that's a lie. In my first year, everything was not replied. It was my second year, because to write one cold email, and I don't know, I learned it from someone, was a mentor that told me this. I read the papers. I read one academic papers. I didn't understand anything. Read the abstract introduction. And there's a theory rule for me that I open a cold email. Recognize, Professor Bees, I read your article published in this title, this. And I recognize blah, 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 blah. I was ever wondering, you have some questions. My subject title is never request for this. It's more of interest in that specific thing I read and moving forward. Now, it's like a collaborative. Obviously, at the end paragraph, they would then recognize that I'm someone's take in perspective, right? But I thought I was just writing code emails, but that also helped me shape my specific research questions a whole lot. Imagine writing SOPs, and that's why I say when we come to SOP writing, for those in science, we can work very well together. There's more power in writing that my uncle died of cancer. There's less power in it than when you write, I read this paper published in this by your group or by this certain group, and you then quote some things. It's because I know now that I'm here after 5 years. It's fine. I also did those mistakes. It's a bit of a difficult work, but now with artificial intelligence, there are so many terms to break down for you. Unfortunately, I'm saying here because I know some people will be prompted to upload the paper and just have something without understanding it. It's really sad to see, just to get your code email responded to. But those are the things that help you also shape some questions you want to write about that guide your thoughts. Maybe I'll speak to Precious and see if I can come actually to do a training on code emailing and writing all of these things. And the team
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. We still have just like I told you when we started, we can still recycle most of our speakers because we have some of these topics going down. We
Mm.
have more specific. I think there is a week we are supposed to be talking about statement of purpose, and we wrapped up statement of purpose, um, personal statement, and cold email. I think I will ask Precious how we
Yeah.
structure that thing.
Yeah, that would be great. So maybe look forward to that. But the point I'm trying to drive at is that the approaches to this, you have to read. You just have to read a little bit what excites you, not to the specific nitty-gritty. I don't expect you to understand those papers yet, but it's the attempt to kind of shape a narrative. It's easier if you want to pursue what you did in your underground project. Very easy to connect it up because I believe you still understand what you did. It's a bit more difficult if you are gearing off to a different field. Not that it's not impossible. I did that. My undergrad was environmental microbiology, but I'm doing molecular now. So it was totally different. And I wrote all my research experience on my environmental, but made a case of why I want to switch and why I think these questions are important. And my case was that I recognized a gap in my environmental work. That even though I saw this cool thing, I can't understand why, except I do molecular. And I kind of so there are ways you can connect this. And these are also we are going technical in these instances. Maybe one recommendation I will have, we are looking at this. Either we have, and I don't know what your group wants to do, Stanley. Either we have a generalized SOP session, but I found it very useful when you have these breakout rooms in the different field for the social science, to the science. It makes citing examples more concrete. I happen to write it, but that's a lot of effort. And that's why but doing the can APS peer mentorship, quite frankly. Imagine I'm talking to everybody in biology and science here because they reach out to me as a peer mentor. That helps a whole lot, right? To kind of give these specific scenarios. I will take a few other questions so that I can, I know you guys have a session. There's this long question here I would like to read.
But the question is too long.
Yeah, I read it already. How to build all of this? What should I emphasize on in your chances of receiving? I think I've already spoken about that on how a code may work. I don't know. Just a second here. I think we can make something. This is the last thing I would show you now. Because rather than you waiting for that, I want to see if I can still share my screen, but we're gonna find out in a moment. But Favor, you can go ahead and ask your question while I say this on, so we can move on to that.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Kinde, for this wonderful section. I learned a lot and I enjoyed it. So my question is this: I am a second class upper graduate. I study nutrition and I want to switch into the field of economics. Now, most of the people that I've spoken to, my particular interest would be more on the international trade and macroeconomics. Most of the people that I've spoken to always point out to me that my background, my first degree, which is BSc in nutrition, is a limitation or a challenge to me. So now I'm thinking of doing taking a conversion degree and switching into economics. Now, before doing that, I know that would take me steps. I'll have to spend 2 more years in the university to get a BSc with economics. I want to find out, is it necessary or is it something I can do? The only option that has been presented to me is that I have to do an economics degree that is related to nutrition, but I do not want to do that. I want to do international trade and then macroeconomics. That's my question. Should I go ahead with it, or is there any way I can go around that? That's
Your
my
bachelor's is
question.
in nutrition, right?
Yes, sir.
And you want to do a master's in
Economics.
That's a strong disconnect.
First of all, I appreciate your passion, but yes, I think your conversion is, you know what you want for yourself. Precious is your best person here because he had this major switch. I'm not sure if you heard the story also. He was in medical school for a while, then he had to go for a bachelor's in it. So the thing about graduate school is that's why it's very difficult for you to apply directly. There are also what we call prerequisites. To do a master's program, there are some prerequisite courses you must have taken. There's no way we can make a case for those prerequisites in what you are to what you are going from nutrition to economics. It's a very strong disconnect, but not that it's not possible. I think you recognize what you need to do.
Very much possible.
Yeah. So, you recognize what you need to do. And I would obviously initiate the conversion stuff. There are so many open universities nowadays. I don't know how strong those are now that can even give you an accelerated bachelor's or something. But I'm sure you sound very convinced that this is what you want to do. These are your next steps. That is good. I would say this. The other way you can get out of it, but because of his economics, is a bit technical. Is like someone like me, even though I have a bachelor's in microbiology, right? I could have applied for master's in international development, and I would likely get it because, as I said, I started an organization, then worked for the UN, managed a UN program for over a year. Now, it's a very strong case I have to make. But that itself will come with the requirement of when I get in, they do this thing where they will ask you to go and take some classes when you get in before you continue. But so what do you currently do? What is your work experience like? Like, what have you contributed to? Those are some exceptional ways you can, for some schools, they can make this exception for you. That they are so, because imagine, just think about it. People that have bachelor's in international development, internationalization themselves, and masters are striving to work in the United Nations. They are even training them to work there. Now, there's someone that is already working there that wants to come. They can then make those exceptions. So sometimes your professional experience over the years can help also that transition. In this case, I don't think that is the case for you. I'm right. And that's why I recommend this conversion. Yeah. I don't even answer
Yeah.
your question.
Yeah, I mean, that conversion is like I said, it's a very strike, but you can actually connect. I tell you one testimony. This year, I met somebody who read, what was that? Something in plant sciences and all of that. She gained admission, PhD in my department, public administration and policy. So somebody who studied all her life, everything about science, plants, environmental sciences, and all of that, now switching over to public administration. Although unfortunately the current ban couldn't allow her to get, but she got the admission. I helped her and she got the admission to my school. So it's possible, it's doable, only if you can connect. I can even share, maybe if maybe you can send me maybe a private message and we can talk about that further. You see how I helped her structure her SOP and switched her from that place to this place, and she was admitted. Out of about 140 students that applied for my department this year, only about 12 of them, and out of the 12 of them, only 2 international students, where the rest of the 10 are local students. And she was among the 2 international students taken. So he's somebody that didn't read, she don't know anything about public administration in the first place, but she was able to get a PhD public administration. So it's doable. All right.
Yeah, very, very much. And I think so. I think if I'll classify next step, speak to, Stanley, I think can also help. I would say that also do not stop your approach to want to do this conversion degree thing in line. But I also think that should not stop you from applying because you don't have anything to lose, quite frankly, in my own opinion. But there are ways to kind of shape this your narrative and your professional experiences. So, but it's possible. This can be done. I've seen people who have done it before. And I wish you all the very best in it. Yeah.
Answered all the questions.
You can email me also
So
if
please,
I can connect you.
yeah, we may not exhaust all because I know that a lot of you have a lot of questions, because I know that there are so many things to be talked about, especially in this our class. Connect with Kenny on LinkedIn. One of the things we do here is to connect our speakers with our mentees. Anytime we invite any speaker here, we always advise. And because although I know that a lot of them, just like all of us here, get messages. If you go to my LinkedIn now, the one I have not even read, and my Facebook, in fact, I have run away from Facebook. So we get a lot of messages, but I believe that that was something he said when he started. The way you approach him or the way you reach out to him will either make him to get interest in you or not to get interest in you. So, and most of us, like I always tell you guys, we are so busy. So we don't have time for you to come and say, good morning, sir, how are you doing? All those things, they are important, but because we have a lot of things we are doing, it may not make you to fly. And if I come to your message once, I may not have a opportunity to come back again. So you can just go in there, good morning, even if you want to say a good morning, type everything in that one message. Good morning, how is your studies? Whatever, whatever. I was one of the students, or one of the this in that in your class at Edward Free Dream to Impact program. This that gives the person that that sense of this thing that you and she have met. That's how we network. That's what we talk about when we talk about networking. Most times, whenever I attend a conference and I meet a professor or somebody that is a CEO or something, I always get the person's card. And when I'm emailing the person, I remind the person where we met. That is always a way you can connect. So um, connect with Kenny on LinkedIn, and if you have personal questions there, you can ask. We are hopefully going to recycle him again, probably in our further classes as we move down to this thing. So if you're unable to, even if you send him a message, he didn't answer, make sure you be maybe in his next class and you remind him that I sent you a message, so that he can go and read it. So someone else was listening, but I think we have to end here
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we have another class starting in the next 1 hour, and we always have this break period so that we rejuvenate and come back again. So please, for your further questions, and then I have to use this opportunity to thank Kenny so much. It's not easy. If you guys, some of you are asking questions about volunteering. This is part of the volunteering we are talking about. Most of us, we spend so much time volunteering. Look at how he struggled to be here. We are so busy. America is not easy. I mean, he can testify to that. So the first person that spoke to you guys, you saw how he also struggled to come. He's speaking from UK. That guy is running a lot of programs for UN and then SDG. All this, he's doing a lot of things in the SDG, this thing. And so the speakers we are bringing here are all strong PhD, strong people who have actually done a lot, and they're actually doing a lot. Now, finally, before we close for this class, I want to, part of the things that we are doing, especially in this our 12 weeks, is to, at the end of the day, have some people, at the end of these 12 weeks, some of you will continue with us, while most of you may not continue with us. And how do you continue with us? We will select you. We will select you from the party, just like what happened in the previous class, where the speaker gave you guys an assignment and said he wants to use that to see one science and one art student that he would want to work with in terms of paper. Because one of the things we want to do is we can even publish with you guys, have your proposed name in the publication. It gives you that listing. So I'm giving you these tips. I'm not supposed to tell you this, but that is one of the things he wants to do. He wants to um, publish with you guys and also see how he can make your your research this in more visible. Your research, if you have like you have a Google Scholar, you have a ResearchGate and all of that. It can help you boost it. So, and then for this class, we are also looking for, I don't want to say all the things we want to do, but if we have a strong candidate and if we see you are strong, you don't need to tell us that you're strong. We will pick you and we will pay your application fee and we will help you apply to schools. We have been doing it over the years. Last year we did that through an essay competition, but this year we're not doing an essay competition. We are going to select people directly from this program we are doing. We don't know who we are going to select. Now, I want to ask one question before we close. Can someone just tell me those 5 good thematic areas that Kenny mentioned that you need? He mentioned 5 good thematic areas Okay, blessing.
Okay, so towards the end of this session, you mentioned 5 areas that we need to improve in. You mentioned that we should have a strong academic profile, which includes a good CGPA. And you also mentioned that we should have research skills, good research skills, extracurricular activities, which involves volunteering. You mentioned that we should have hard and soft skills. And the last thing he said, do we have any project that we can by ourselves say we started and we completed by ourselves? So not necessarily being owners of companies or whatever, but maybe any project or anything that we started and we're able to complete it. So those are the 5 things that I could say that I took note of from what he said.
Okay, I think you're there. All right, 5 good thematic areas. All right. Favor, do you want to add anything to that? Favor Daniels, you want to say something different from what she has said?
All right. All right. Yes. I would like for the fifth area he mentioned. He spoke about leadership skills, having leadership skills. If you have strong leadership skills, that's what he spoke about. You don't necessarily have to be a founder, but you can the ability to show that you started something and you're able to complete it.
Yes, that's good. Thank you guys for your contributions in this. We keep moving. We just started this week. I don't know any of you personally. I hope to know you guys probably because we are going to be. I'm going to be in. I will try, but I'm not promising you guys that I will be in all the classes because I have a lot. This semester we are entering now. I have about 5 conferences. Even one of those Saturdays, I have a conference to attend at somewhere in California. So, but
Where are you based? Which part of the state are you at?
Virginia.
Virginia. Ah, I should visit there very soon. Is it University of Virginia or which school?
I am in Old Dominion University,
Oh, Old Dominion. Oh, yeah, no, Old Dominion.
ODU, and
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm even the president of Nigerian students there. So,
So when I come now, house I dey come here.
Kosi Wahala, we there here, we full ground.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So I would connect with you. Maybe I would tell Precious to give me your direct number so
Yeah,
that
I was hoping to ask him to. Either way works. So that works.
yeah. All right, because we are going to recycle you. Like I said, we are still
Yeah,
going to
I'm happy
recycle you in
happy
our
to.
subsequent classes.
Happy to. Thanks for organizing this. I know it's easier to come and talk than to organize. I know when I
I'm
was doing
telling
this
you,
organization, I stopped. So I appreciate you guys still doing it.
it's not easy. As you can see, even Precious himself, he was supposed to be here, but look at, you
Yeah.
know,
He said
it's
his
not
flight was
easy.
cancelled. Yeah.
Yeah, he has a flight. He has a flight reschedule and all that.
Yeah, it's no problem. Yeah, no problem,
All right.
guys. Nice to meet you. Thanks. Nice to meet everyone. Bye bye.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys. And then see you guys in the next. I don't know some of you are not going to be. I don't know if you're going to be in the next class, but if you're going to be in the next class, see you in the next class.
Yeah. Bye.
Yeah.